You're so special.
Bob, you want a cupcake?
No, thank
Special
you.
meeting, special
Yeah.
treats.
Paula tried to help me out on that, but I just. Hi, Bev. Well. Maybe I can say it wasn't forever.
Want to take one for your wife?
It isn't forever, I'm back.
I'm glad you're back. I'm glad you're back.
Oh. How you been?
I've been good. I'm good. Just, you know, sitting on the porch with my wiener dogs, Mr. Reggie. That's our retirement life.
A new wiener dog or an old one?
These are fairly young. We usually get the old rescue ones. These were rescues, but they're like 3 years old.
Oh, okay.
A lot of life in them.
That would probably our.
I love it.
Our household. And we went from there. Quite a way different direction. We finally ended up with the
Understand.
cat. We got a cat now. but-
Easier to leave alone in the house.
Oh, yeah.
It's just so more freeing, but there's something about a dog that's really
Oh, yeah.
personal.
I was surprised. This cat I have now, in the sense that he's huge for a cat. I can't pick him up, he's too heavy. That's not much because I'm not in health anymore, but he wants to be a lap kitty.
Oh, okay, that's a usually cats are so aloof.
Yeah.
They don't really
And he
want
just
much.
wants to be there and lay on you in the morning when I get my morning coffee. When he gets up and sits down, lays on the counter there and lays on my arm so I can only drink coffee. And then he gets jealous. No, you can't drink coffee. And
He owns you. He owns
you covered it all right there. Covered it all. So,
Would you prefer a use this chair or?
It depends, you know, well, that mic doesn't work.
Yeah, Michael. You should sit next.
oh,
We're on the screen.
yeah,
Wish people would come in person.
we,
We're kind of half and half.
well, look at this, man. No, not like that one either. That's the back of my head. No, we don't want to look at the back of my head. My wife hadn't got around with her clippers.
I do my husband's with the clippers on the porch too. He shaves his beard a couple times, about once every 3 or 4 years, and I never notice it. It's like 2 weeks before he tells me.
That's not,
I don't see it.
you don't, you see him.
I see him.
No, wait a minute. This might be personal.
Oh,
Oh,
holy cow.
okay.
Okay, got.
Those are the grindstone people.
So we're the only in-person people?
I think that Scott Stevenson and Eric are going to show.
Oh, good. Well, Scott's the.
God can't be here. Yeah, okay. So we gotta have 3. We got 2. If we can get Eric here, we got 3.
Hey, there's Forrest.
Oh,
We
yeah,
got
okay.
3.
That's why he's
Mark.
here. All right. Okay, I
So-
keep losing that idea, that concept. Hi, Forrest.
Okay, no cussing, Bob.
Hi, Bob. Good seeing you.
Hi, Forrest.
Hi, Bev.
All righty.
It's time. I had. These for your own. You have one?
I just have the agenda and then final thing was, because it was like 50 pages, Mr. Eggy wouldn't print it.
They didn't send me my this week either. I came in and out,
You
But I
got
mean-
one.
keeping your records in case you ever are called upon. I see I have 2 copies. That's the reason I'm so generous.
Are you trying to corner me into reading those rules again?
I'll do it, but you might need them sometime. That's what
Yeah,
I'm saying.
I have a big folder. I just
Okay.
didn't want to carry it.
All right,
I put
well-
everything.
All right.
It's traveling light.
Do we want to wait for Eric? Okay,
Give them 3:59. Let's
yeah.
I always get places fairly early.
Well, there's Julie too. That's good.
Have you seen all the murals?
I think I've seen them all. I haven't been,
There's a lot of them.
I bailed out of town. Was gone a lot of that time. And I just haven't got out. Very delinquent. I just haven't got out.
Yeah,
Haven't.
yeah, we're kind of just hang around the house with the dogs. But this is family and things.
Bring a napkin now. Bring a napkin or you'll be wiping on your shirt tail.
Don't forget your manners.
Places.
You can sit, we can sand,
Other side of the box.
our name tags. Oh, this is,
You want to surround me, what you're saying,
Yeah,
surround.
Exactly.
kind of like a knuckle sandwich, but
Yeah. And now we've definitely got a quorum. Is it? Are we on the air? Oh, I mean, here really comes Scott. You're missing the donut, Scott. We'll give Scott a chance to settle down.
Hey, sit up for the regular part of the meeting and then when it comes to the.
How are you?
Yes.
All right, Scott, when we start discussing your presentation, you will need to remove yourself from the board, just as an FYI.
Thanks
Okay.
for the reminder.
Yeah.
If it's right time now for the satellite, why, I'm gonna call the Historic Landmark Commission of the Dalles, Oregon to order. And we'll call for a roll call of attendees here, not attendees, that's not. Roll call members of the commission, wherever they may seat. How's that?
Bev Aggie,
present.
Forrest Ercole,
Here.
Eric Gleason.
Here.
Bob McNary,
Here,
Scott Stevenson.
Here.
Julie Reynolds. Here. And Scott Randall is absent.
thank you. If we would all rise here, Eric, would you lead us in the pledge of allegiance?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and
to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God.
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Eric. Now, time to check if you people are doing your homework. Have you read the agenda?
I did read the agenda. I didn't bring a copy with me, but I did read it.
Okay,
There's some by the door.
Oh, hmm.
So I'll entertain a motion to accept the agenda as written.
I second it.
I didn't,
I'll make the motion to accept the agenda as presented.
I'll second it.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, now we gotta,
Excuse me, Commissioner
Pretty good.
Stevenson? You vote?
I did.
Stevenson,
Oh, Stevens, did you vote
you vote?
for the agenda?
No,
Are you in favor or?
yes, I'm in favor. Yeah, I just thought we were good with this. Apologies.
they got some kind of new rules and Robert orders in this particular committee just for you have to vote.
Hmm.
Even the president has to vote, or chairman, or whoever,
Hmm.
commission, okay. It's just, we just do it. So I didn't know if you was aware of that or not. Okay, the approval of the minutes of the August 24th, 2022. I was not in attendance, but it's been very interesting reading. So I cannot make comments on the correctness of it, but you people are welcome to and do what you have to.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of August 24th, 2022.
I second it.
Motion has been made and second to approve the minutes of August 24th. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion for the minutes have passed. Now, looking to the audience, this is a time for public comments from anyone that wants to speak on any subject that does not appear on our agenda. And I see Dave out there. Do you want to talk now, Dave, or later? Okay, I just wanted to get you in. I don't want you to escape on me. So we have. Okay, good. I finally read this thing. Somebody at one time moved staff comments up and commissioners' comments up at this point. But then they moved it back. Now I see it down at the end of the meeting. That's beautiful. That's where it belongs. Okay, now is the time then, even though it's early on, that we're gonna call a public hearing to approve an application. And I'll get out my rules and regulations and butcher this up to the best of my knowledge. Bev says, are you gonna ask me? And no, I'll just suffer through it today myself. So here we go. Now is the time specified by the Historic Landmark Commission to conduct a public hearing. The purpose of this public hearing is to consider Historic Landmark Commission application 209-22 J. Scott Stevenson, 212 East Second Street. The request is to approve a site and construct a small park in the northeast corner of the parking lot. That's the way it reads there. So the substantial criteria upon which the Historic Landmark Commission will base its decision on this matter are contained in the city's comprehensive plan and the land use and development ordinances. A public hearing is required by law and certain rules apply. First and foremost, you must be recognized by the chair in order to speak and present testimony. When recognized by the chair, please proceed to the microphone and state your name, mailing address for the record. This hearing is required by law to be tape recorded. Generally, the public hearing proceeds as follows. Prior to the public hearing, which we're having, but prior to it, the determination is made on the qualifications of the commission members and allows for challenges from the audience. Hearing none, we will move on. I will open the public hearing with a staff report. The purpose of this staff report at this point is to further identify the applicant's criteria of the case being considered and to provide background information about the case. After the staff report, there will be a testimony from the proponents, those persons in favor of the application. Next, there will be a testimony from the opponents, those not in favor. Next, There will be testimony from anyone else who wishes to offer testimony or ask questions. Then in the honor of rebuttal, we will again hear from those in favor of the application. To expedite the hearing, the commission members may ask questions of the persons as they testify. Then, when this process has been concluded, we will close the public testimony portion of the hearing. During the hearing, some important standards apply. First of all, those who testify must hold their testimony to the decision criteria. As in land use hearings, there are a complete set of rules, procedures, and criteria we must follow. Second, failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the commission members and the parties an opportunity to respond to that issue precludes an appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals based on that issue. Third, a failure of the applicant to raise constitutional or other issues relating to proposed conditions of approval with detail specified enough to allow the city to respond to the issue precludes an action for damage in the circuit court. Prior to the conclusion of the public hearing, any participant may request an opportunity to request additional evidence, arguments, or testimony regarding the application. If such a request is made, the law states that the commission must grant the request by either continuing the hearing to a time and date at least 7 days from the date of the initial hearing, or the record must be kept open for a period of at least 7 days. Those are the rules. Are there any questions? Okay. I have heard no one check the qualifications. Want to check the qualifications of our commission. So we're saying all our members are above board. So the next thing, is there any member here that has an expatriate contract, conflict of interest, or bias that would not allow them to render an impartial decision in this matter? Oh, you're down there already. I was just gonna throw you down there, but that's okay.
Correct. Yeah. So Chairman, I need to recluse myself from
Yeah,
the commission.
I was gonna get you out of there, but you're okay. You're a step ahead of me, and I got my nose down and you're ready to go, but
Okay, all
I
right.
think I've got enough rules. I don't need any more rules.
And I had talked to Scott a little bit about this some time ago, but not in much detail, so. I don't think I have a conflict of interest or a bias.
Oh, because you talked to Scott.
Yeah,
Boy, you gotta be careful who you talk to, huh?
I know.
So Scott, we're glad to see you down on that side. We don't have to ask you to go. And we'll gladly take you back up there as soon as we get this little bit of application taken care of. You can come back and have your seat, but now you gotta stay out there. So is there any reason why I shouldn't call for the staff report?
No, I'm ready to go. Or-
You're up.
Need to open the public hearing.
Oh, okay, I declare the public hearing open. See, I knew I missed something. I declare the public hearing open and I call for the staff report at this point.
All right. Just a moment here while I get my screen on. Okay. All right, so today we are discussing HLC application number 209-22. The applicant is J. Scott Stevenson. This development is at the nearby parking lot of 212 East 2nd Street. The classification of this parking lot is non-contributing and vacant, and it is in the downtown commercial historic district. So the proposal today is to put in a new small pocket park at this location. It'll take up about 6 parking spots. currently. So as you can see here, this is the vicinity map. So you can see there's 212 East 2nd Street just west of this property. And then this parcel is actually only a parking lot. And so when we were kind of drafting up the staff report for this application, it asks a lot about like, okay, what are the historic characteristics and, what is the character and the features that are historic in this property? Other than the striping, the paving, pumice stone, and trees, those are all really the characteristics of the current parking lot. And so therefore, there are no historic characteristics or features present on the property as it stands today. So a lot of the staff findings are not applicable in the sense that there's not going to be any historic standard or historic features altered through this process. So this is a picture of the current conditions of the property. You can see it's on an intersection here, surrounded by sidewalks. There's some pumice stone. And this is the proposed pocket park. And when we say pocket park, what we mean is just a very small park in our downtown. This park will feature a shade structure along with some seating. This changed from the proposal that you received originally. There is going to be some seating surrounding the shade structure and provide a little more safety so no cars are coming up close to where the pedestrians are walking around the pocket park. And there's another picture as well. The tree that you see in this picture will most likely need to be removed due to the construction of this park. There will be some urban landscaping in this park as well, some seating, a small table, and some provided shade. As you can see, this is kind of the area that it will be replacing. So moving right along here, so this shade structure, staff found that it didn't really classify as a building on how we would normally classify a building with our code. A building, is meant to house a use of some sort, right? So this shade structure isn't really meant to house an additional use like a coffee shop or a retail shop. So when we think about the criterion for buildings in our historic standards, they weren't really applicable in this case. So today in the slideshow, I just included criterion that this park met. So, they are not changing any historic criterion, and there are no distinguishing features that are being affected by this pocket park. Part of our so any it's met with criterions. Criterions are met because this material that characterizes the property is not historic. But really, I feel like the criterion that we should talk about today is how, it is a brand new construction in our historic downtown district, and it is different because the design doesn't normally fit with like the modern criterion for buildings. And so what staff took the position that this was almost like more of a sculpture shade structure rather than keeping it up to the same standards as a historic building. It does add to the overall streetscape. It kind of closes in part of the streetscape for this development, because right now it's an open parking lot. And so part of our criterion is to make sure that our streetscape is pedestrian friendly. And so this is what the park does meet, as you can see in some of the photos here. There is some landscaping in this development, which isn't typical for our historic downtown standards, but since it is out of the public right of way, You know, it's not really like street trees, and they're just adding some additional landscaping on that private property. This is not meant to be a city park. It is a partnership with the landowner, Mike Kelly, and the applicant, Scott Stevenson. So that's just kind of a rundown of the Pocket Park right now. Does the commissioners have any questions?
So Mike Kelly owns the. Oh, sorry. So Mike Kelly owns the property and Scott, you're like in partnership with him to, who's actually paying for the development or?
So the city is not paying for the development. Can Scott answer questions now, or is that later?
Premature, sorry.
Okay. Okay.
I was just curious.
Yeah, so we can save that question for Scott. If you have any more questions of staff, though, I'm happy to answer.
Did you know whether there's going to be footings or excavation and stuff associated
Yes,
with this?
so with the proposed conditions of approval, there will be some excavation with this. And if they do find artifacts over 75 years in age, all state laws and regulations will be required to be followed per the direction of the state archaeologist. So these are the proposed conditions of approval. We also wanted to make sure that the applicant will show how landscaping will be maintained on site, since there will be some low-lying shrubs. And after this decision that's rendered, if approved, the applicant will need to do a building permit with the Community Development Department.
I see in there that landscaping is going to take part, but where will he get his water from? You'll have to excavate someplace there to find water.
I mean, so they could get water from East 2nd Street if they wanted to do some repairs, or if they're going to do dry scaping that didn't need irrigation, that's an option, but that would be addressed during the building permit stage as well. They would need to show how it's going to be irrigated on site if needed.
And I don't have any concept of how deep they'd have to excavate to even set these concrete benches and so on and so forth. There must be some kind of footing requirement for them. So there will be some digging, got to be. Because there will have to be. And it doesn't really cover it, but it just says that there's no excavation, but there has got to be someplace. And the landscaping will also bring on some other excavation. But that is not covered too well in this permit, but that's okay. Anyone got any questions of staff? Before we ask the man, the proponent, to give us his view,
Not I.
Nope.
where's Forrest? You got any questions to staff at this point, Forrest?
No, it's pretty straightforward. I'm good with the staff report.
Okay, well, we're gonna ask Scott now to give his reasoning and his picture of what he visualizes is going to come out of this. So Scott, you're up to bat. You're the proponent.
Right. So I did hear two questions, or actually I heard three questions, and start with Eric's. Yes, there will be excavation. We're working to hopefully work with Crestline and Schubach as contractors on this. And that was the concern with the tree, is that we will have to excavate down. In answer to the chairman's question about footings and so on, yes, there are going to be concrete footings. The walls will go down. They'll attach to bolts through. If memory serves, it's about 24 inches that they're going to have to go down. The park benches that are on the interior are part of that concrete structure. It'll be rebar all the way through. And so that will be basically the establishment of the support and stability for the structure. So with the tree, talking with Crestline, most likely because of the extent of the excavation, the concern is the root structure that is coming down from that tree, and with the excavation probably be disturbed, and most likely that tree would not survive if we did not remove that. So we have looked at suitable trees that would be good to bring in for this, and recognizing that that's a common issue on Second Street. So we're looking at trees that would be appropriate. I also know that there is the beautification committee that has, I believe, a consultant that they're hiring to take a look at the trees that are on Second Street. So worked with the beautification committee quite a bit. So I'm sure they're going to be happy to share their findings to make sure we find the appropriate tree. With regard to the irrigation, there is existing irrigation. Now it isn't hooked up at this time, but it does run along Second Street and Washington Street. So we've contacted the city. There is access for water just outside of the building. So we should be able to connect through that to provide the necessary irrigation for the site. With regard, Commissioner Agee was asking about the funding of the project and how we were going to take care of that. So this is, I'm the chairman for the Arts and Design Committee, which is housed within the Dallas Arts Center. I'm the executive director of the Dallas Arts Center. So we have a contract with the city for public art services. This is considered a public art project. As staff have pointed out, it's more of a sculpture, really, more in lines of the artist Frank Stella that produced these steel structures that were freestanding. So that was the inspiration of it. We had an architect that did the design pro bono. And so that's where we stand right now. The modifications on the outside, the concern, as staff pointed out, was that the access and protection of the actual structure, and then also providing seating on the outside. We are looking at, now this is Core 10, most likely is the steel that we're going to use. So it will present rust, but it doesn't continue to rust. So with the steel on the backside, our hope is that we may be able to add some information about the building that was there prior to it. And then also the idea is that that building had these very nice arches. And it was 3 arches with a center arch that was higher. So seeing that this is the side of that building, we thought on one side we could perhaps tell the history of that building and then represent an architectural feature of it, which the most defining structure or feature of the structure was the arches that were existent on there. And then on the other side, we're looking at the steel as reminiscent of the steel doors that are on the back side of the buildings in the alleyways. So those steel doors were used to protect against fire. So the thought was that we could add some narrative of the fires that were in the Dalles and that history to provide a little bit of a historical context to the building, the site, and then also connecting kind of the steel and the history of the Dalles. So those are some thoughts. Now, the problem may be the attaching it, how that might come together with that. As far as the coming back to the funding of this, so it's a contract with the city, so we do receive funds. The concept of the Arts and Design Committee is that we, as the Dallas Arts Center, as the housing body of the Arts and Design Committee, are a 501c3. So with that 501c3 and the city being a municipality, it does open up the opportunity for grant funding. So you can receive grant funding for projects such as this. And so that's what we're seeking. Yes.
As far as like the maintenance, it's downtown, like just the, if it gets dirty or trash, I don't know if you're gonna have garbage bins there. Is there a plan on who would keep it clean? That kind of thing?
Right. So currently we're working through the contract and that's one of those pieces. So the irrigation, the maintenance, the liability issue, these different pieces. Yeah. So that is part of the plan and we're working it out with the property owner at this time. Thank you.
Any other questions for Scott?
I have a couple things I'd like to get clarified. So I kind of rolling off what Bev said. So if homelessness becomes an issue and staying in this area, is that going to be defined in the contract as who's going to maintain the area and work with the homeless to, get them a better spot to stay, or are they just going to be allowed to stay there?
So it is private property. So the property owner has that opportunity to notify the correct authorities to keep that space clear. So one of the things that we are looking at as well is the lighting. So we will have lighting that will be on the front that will illuminate the structure from the front side. And then we're looking at the back side. There's a telephone pole that's adjacent to the alleyway. And so we're looking to put floodlights on that side that can illuminate the backside. And that would be a deterrent for people to sleep there or whatever else might be happening.
You answered my second question, was whether there is going to be lighting on this. So thank you, Scott. And lastly, is the rust color sold and set in stone already? Because personally, it's a little bit of an eyesore just having a look at a rust color, steel walls. It just, I don't know. It sure looks old fashioned, I guess, but it's just kind of an eyesore in my opinion, personal opinion.
So that was the design, and then with the materials, I think with the rust, with this particular design, I think what they were going for was adding that kind of history and the aged effect of the building. I think the maintenance of the steel would really add to the project. So that was the thinking with the Core-10. As the material selected.
Thank you. And I guess my last question, at least I have right now, that I'm thinking of, is the concrete going to be stained that color? Like we have this brown color in the center of the sculpture. Is that going to be stained that way? Is there any design to that, or is all the concrete going to be stained a certain color?
Okay, that's a great question. So actually, those are pavers. So what you're seeing in the red is pavers. Are pavers, and those are in the same design and material as what's existing on the 2nd Street side. So there's basically a walkway, concrete walkway, that is a pedestrian way, and then close to the curb, probably about 2 feet wide, is a section of pavers that runs the length of Washington and 2nd Street.
Thanks, Scott. I think that's all I had. Just one last thing. So all the benches then inside and outside are going to be concrete blocks, correct?
Yeah, they're going to be concrete blocks. We had a different diagram. This is an updated diagram, but we had a different set of renderings and some of the plans that probably would answer Chairman Nagy's question about the footings and the construction engineering. But the benches are actually going to be kind of cantilevered, if that makes sense, so that they're going to come up at an angle, and then the seating structure would be on the top.
I think he's got that answered my question perfectly, what I was thinking.
Thank you.
Guess, my only question is, so the excavations are gonna go probably not more than a couple feet? Or maybe 3 feet at the most for the footings for the walls?
Right, that's the plans that we have now. Staff, do you have the
I think
first renderings there?
If they find something like bones or.
Well, it says 75 years old. It says in the,
Of course, I read that.
find me digging down there.
Okay. 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 Oh, what's this one?
What's his name? Ray, horse race is very legitimate. You see it all the.
Yeah, so I would think that right now it's showing that the engineering diagram is about 15 inches for the depth of the rebar to go down. And actually, I'd like to correct that. So it's 21 inches for the engineering aspect of that for the footing. And so that's the base of the footing. And then most likely with excavation, you'd have to go down deeper, do a leveling and set that up.
Yeah, I guess, I don't really have too much concern that you're gonna find stuff there, just because the building that was there before that got torn down probably had a cellar and everything, and
Right.
probably mostly all,
Right where you're
Phil.
digging is the old walls.
yeah, there's probably a perimeter wall that they would have left intact, but
How far did the regrade extend?
does the what?
How far did the regrade extend?
Past there, all the
Past
way
there.
up to, I think it tapers all the way up to third or fourth.
Third or fourth. So most likely that might be part of the regrade. then.
Yeah, I would think there's at least 6 feet of fill underneath the sidewalks there, but
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, we'll probably be well within that.
I am deeply concerned with what is going on in this community now, and it's not our fault or anybody's fault, but we do have so much vandalism. And I just can't help but think that this isn't going to be a good target for somebody to be spraying graffiti on the wall. And then I wonder, you do have enough vehicle barrier in the parking lot that somebody isn't going to back into it. These blocks are going to be close enough together that they're not going to be able to get between them. I don't know.
Yeah, that was a primary concern, and that was the modification with the plan. So we met with the property owner, laid out the park as it was with the original design, and then we were able to work with the property owner to extend out what he's going to give us for this project. So it started out with just 2 parking spots on the east side, and then the north side, there's that kind of odd triangular section that you have to create that angled parking. So it's going to be that, and then 1 parking spot. So he's extended that to give us an extra 9 feet. And then what you're looking at is the rendering of that. So that we would be able to protect that, somebody, missing the turn, or who knows what can happen.
Other comment I'm hearing when you're talking about lighting, we have got to come to the realization someday in this community that we've got to get more indirect lighting and not floodlights and spotlights and so on and so forth. We're creating quite an a light shadow in our nighttime skies around here with all the lights that we have. So I hope that there's some consideration of this. when you do figure out how you're gonna light it. The new street lights are wonderful. But they don't go around corners too well, so you have to
Right, right.
make it a flood. I mean, more bulbs or more lights, I should say.
Right. Yeah, I appreciate that comment. And we'll hopefully be able to address that. So if I understood correctly, it was to provide lighting that would not then cast a shadow on the other side that would then create a problem.
Well, that and just light pollution, right?
Light
Going up
pollution. Okay.
unchecked.
Okay. Thank you.
That we haven't, I mean, that's we're away from that point yet, and you keep repeating this is going to be private property, a private structure on private property. And I think it's wonderful, but you're opening it to the public on day one, aren't you?
Oh, yes, absolutely. That's the intention, is to be able to have a public space, which we do lack in the downtown. And so having that public space is an important aspect of that. And the property owner is very much looking forward to having that connection. And it's also being that we're considering it almost as a monument or a sculpture piece, that it is providing some connectivity. You have the Granada there, then the art center is 2 blocks up, and then you have the Civic. So it's an effort to kind of start to connect these creative centers within the city.
There's so many legal things that go through my mind. I don't have any legal training at all. But when you're saying it's private, that's private property, that kind of insinuates that you would be carrying liability insurance if anything happened on it, even though you've opened it to the public and all that. None of these questions I don't even want to start to think about it, but you
It's
understand
definitely
I'm hearing
a-
them anyhow
yeah,
in
yeah,
my
yeah.
mind.
Absolutely. And that's what we're working through right now.
They're kind of beyond our criteria of.
Oh, they're way
concern.
beyond their criteria,
Yeah.
but they are something that
Right.
has to be thought about.
Absolutely. And that's part of the contract that we're working out with the property owner.
And when you're talking about mixing private property and public funds to do this and this, it all gets very fuzzy in my. So your art center, I don't know where they stand as far as this, but I have no more questions of the proponent. Do you? So we would ask anyone that wanted to speak in
I have one more
opposition
question,
to it.
Bob.
Oh, I forgot. I keep forgetting you over there, fella. If
Stop
you got
forgetting.
anything further you want to add?
So I was just thinking when I was listening, Scott, are you guys planning to have a trash can involved with the landscaping of this structure?
Yeah, that's something that we're going to incorporate within the park area, whether it's outside the park or adjacent, meaning that would be adjacent. We're going to not put it necessarily in the park, but to have a trash receptacle adjacent to it.
Wonderful. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
I don't know where you want to speak in here, Dave, but you're here, so you must have some reason to stick around. You want to be a proponent or an opponent?
So Dave is going to speak today during the staff comments after this is resolved.
Any of the commission members have any further things to say? Then we've gone through our steps.
If I may speak to the lighting requirements, in the Dallas Municipal Code, we do have lighting requirements of 0.3 foot candles on the property line, and it may not directly illuminate like a public street or right away or cause any potential hazards to motorists. So that is something that I've actually tested before. I march around on the property lines with a foot candle reader. And so that is something that we do look into. There was no lighting demonstrated on the plan, but we would look into that with the building permit. That's all.
So. Is there a reason can't close the public hearing? Anyone got any more questions?
No,
I'm gonna close the public hearing on this now and we will deliberate as a commission and make a decision.
I guess I don't have any problems with it. It's just replacing a vacant thing, and they're gonna try and bring in a historic element to
I
talk
like,
about the building that was there
that was nice.
prior to getting torn down and stuff, so I think it.
Would it be anyhow proper to see if we could get some kind of a plaque that explained that there was another building there?
Well, I think they're talking about incorporating it into the design, so
If,
I think that'd be good.
I think it's gonna be an asset to downtown. I mean, I initially, when I first saw it, I thought, wow, this is really modern, but the rust and as he mentioned, the back doors behind the old shops, there was a lot of tie-in, and he seemed very respectful to the nod to the history of the original building. I think it's gonna be a good thing. It looks indestructible.
Yeah, it looks durable, so.
Durable.
yeah, durable, the much better explanation.
I set the
Uh,
bar too high on that.
As chairman of this commission, I would appreciate if you would like to make a motion, either one of you to accept or
Okay,
modify or,
I'll move that we accept, approve HLC Landmarks application number 209-22 of J. Scott Stevenson of 212 East Second Street with the conditions of approval as given in the recommended conditions of
Okay.
approval as given in the staff report.
I'll second
Okay.
that.
thank you. If there's no further discussion, I'll call for the vote and we'll raise their hand. I'm gonna learn to live with you up there, Forrest. That's all there's to it. I just gotta learn to live with you on the wall.
He's the peanut gallery.
Yeah.
It's rare that I
all
come
in
in
favor
person.
of
I'll
this
come
motion?
eventually.
For application number so-and-so, I lost it. 209-22. Say aye and raise your right hand. Aye.
Aye.
There's not brook juice calling, but I will call for anyone that's opposed. And we don't have anybody left. So I'd say this motion has been passed. Now, do we want to go on at this point right now while we're really in the swing and just get the resolution taken care of? And go for it. You can do it.
You just read this, let it-
Or, yeah, just the.
It's
this,
just,
this section right here.
no, you gotta start off with here. You gotta, that you pass resolution.
It's on the agenda, the numbers on the agenda.
Oh, because she's working from the agenda. Okay. One night.
Okay, I'm not sure what that is. Just read this whole
Yeah,
thing.
just read the Historic Landmark Commission resolution number.
Okay, Historic Landmarks Resolution number 196-22. Gonna read this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
No, I don't think you have to.
No, don't have to read anything else.
That's it? Well, that was easy.
Well, no, with
Oh,
the
shoot.
conditions.
Oh, with the conditions.
Then they're not there. They're over here.
I don't have that in front of me.
Oh, well, they're
I think
conditions.
you
We,
can
with
just say with the conditions of.
the
With
conditions
the
of,
with the conditions that were
yeah,
presented.
yes.
That's it. That was it. As clear as I can.
I
Sorry.
will second Bev's motion to approve HLC Resolution 196-22.
Is there any further discussion on approving this? If not, all in favor, say aye and raise your right hand.
I,
Aye.
Anyone opposed? I guess he left. He was opposed and he left.
Yeah.
Ah,
Is that Matthew?
yeah. Anyhow, resolution 19622 has been approved. And I don't hear the hammers and the saws yet. Are they out there starting to dig? And
Well, they're just waiting for that.
We gotta get that building.
Scott, come back and join us now,
Thank you.
please.
Pay better attention when you guys are doing your
Oh,
motions.
Well, usually they're,
He usually prints
they're
everything
good.
out. It was like 50 pages. So
Yeah.
they came in with that much. See how I did that? I blamed it on Mr. Eggy.
Yeah.
yeah,
Did good, do good.
That was
Now, we're back to number 9 item on our agenda is the staff comments on how well we have been behaving as landmark commission members.
Well, the staff would like to comment. You guys have all been very good commission members. So, but we do have some staff comments today. Dave Anderson, the director of the City of the Dallas Public Works Department, is here to share some information with you regarding the Rock House on East 2nd Street. And Dave, if you just want to come up and join me, and I do have the location map up on the screen.
Thank you, Caitlin. Again, for the record, I'm Dave Anderson, Public Works Director for the City of Dallas. Honorable Chair and Commission members, thank you for giving me the time to visit with you today. Some of this may sound a little familiar to some of you who might remember that the topic of these buildings came up 3 or 4 years ago. These buildings, you can see from the map, they're located along the base of Brewery Grade, just about in alignment with the Brewery Grade overpass. These are the stone buildings that are located there back in those trees. Like I say, a number of years ago, the city had received a request from ODOT asking whether we would support demolishing those buildings. Those buildings are located apparently at least partially within the ODOT right of way of East 2nd Street. So we haven't done the official survey or a technical survey, so I can't tell you exactly how many feet, but that was part of the issue. At the time that ODOT approached us, they were experiencing a lot of unauthorized public use of those buildings. They were having to go in fairly frequently and clean up some pretty bad messes that were posing both a public health and a public safety hazard in their view. At that time, the roof was deteriorated and collapsing. There are wooden floors in there that were failing and potential and were definitely you could fall through them pretty easily. There were several gaping holes. And so at that time, city staff was actually in support of demolishing the buildings, removing the hazard to public health and public safety, and working with ODOT to make that happen. However, before any of that happened, there was a conversation with the Historic Landmarks Commission, and I believe that there was a concern at that time from members about moving forward with a demolition plan. And so nothing was done. Since then, the buildings have continued to deteriorate. A couple of walls has fallen down. You can see in the top right picture, as I'm looking at it there, that that one side wall has fallen completely in. The front wall in the bottom right now doesn't have any support and is at risk of falling back in. We do have no trespassing signs posted around the buildings. The parcel that is adjacent to and where most of these buildings are located is owned by the city. The reason that the city owns it is that there's a drainage ditch that comes down off the hillside that's actually part of the city's stormwater collection system. The city's pipe system comes in, flows under Brewery Grade, and then daylights, open discharges to a ditch that flows through this parcel and then back into a pipe and under 2nd Street. So the parcel was essentially undevelopable for anybody else. And when the opportunity came up, the city purchased it here 4 or 5, 6 years ago. So it is a city-owned parcel. It has these buildings that we, again, believe are both a public health and a public safety hazard for fear of someone getting in there, the fault walls continuing to fall and somebody being injured. It's our understanding that these buildings are located outside the historic district. They don't have any official designation or are not on the registry, historic registry, and perhaps staff can confirm that for me. But we wanted to just come back before the commission and have the conversation to share with you what the concerns are. I guess essentially see if we can get your blessing to move forward with what we really feel needs to be done for the protection of the public. It would be our intent to, if we do move forward with demolition and removal, that the rotted wood and everything would be discarded as garbage, but that the stone would be salvaged and stored, stockpiled, because it's the same kind of stone that could be useful in future maintenance activities, either along the brewery grade wall or the 4th Street grade wall. And a number of years ago, we had some damage to the 4th Street grade wall that we were scrambling just a little bit, not only to find someone who had the skills to work with that, but also to find the right kind of stone. So we would propose that we stockpile this stone and keep it available for future maintenance projects on some of our existing other facilities in town. I think that's it. I'd certainly would like to, entertain any questions, comments, ideas, suggestions that the commission might have.
Do we know anything about the history of those structures, when they were built or who built them or anything like that?
So I think there's some information on that. We don't really have that in Public Works. I seem to remember somebody mentioning that it had some sort of connection to the railroad when they were originally built. Does that sound familiar to you, Commissioner Gleason?
Oh, well, I know the ones closer to Evans are supposedly the wood framed ones.
Yes, the wooden one behind it.
But I don't know about.
And
that
maybe
one
that was
specifically.
speculation at the time when we were talking about, I want to say this has probably been 3 or 4 years ago when we were previously concerned about the condition and talking about doing something with them.
Me, it looked like it was a service area, service station or something. And at one time, because of that wide door on that one structure, I would be broken hard to see it gone, but I know what you're saying. I've got to be both ways at this. I'd love to see it kind of halfway restored, just so it would not be a nuisance, but leave it there. I talked to a fellow that much older than I am, what it was when he was a kid. He was raised on brewery grade, what it was, and he said, well, that's where the bums hung out. And I said, that doesn't really tell me too much, but that was his explanation of what it was in the 30s. That's where the bums hung out, and 1930s, a long time ago. So.
Yeah, it would be, there are certainly people in this room with more expertise and experience in this, but this would be quite a restoration effort with the condition that they are now, because like I say, some parts of it, 3 sides are on the ground. We had actually considered, just facilitating the fall and leaving them, but there are other initiatives at play with the city, a beautification committee. They want to improve the attractiveness of not only the city in the downtown area, but also the entrances. And I think we can do a better job if we just remove those, dress up the site, stockpile the rock somewhere else so that we have it available in the future, and get rid of what we believe is a public safety, public health hazard. And, you could add the issue that it's becoming more of an eyesore.
Somewhere on that same property, and only people that are a little weak-minded like myself have dug around in there. But there's a beautiful stone concrete structure that goes under brewery grade. That's where your water comes from. And if you should go down there just at the right time, and I didn't have my camera and I have never tried to duplicate it, the water flowing there flows pretty consistently. And I think some of it probably wherever, but it flows pretty consistently. And you stand down there and that water flowing through them blackberries out of that old stone structure there. It's a beautiful picture of what they did in those days, but,
There might be an opportunity to open up a little bit of that and, maybe showcase that. I don't know. We'll have to get in there.
the blackberries that overtake you
Yeah,
in
in
no
a
time
week.
at all. Yeah, you start on one end and they'd close up the other end, you wouldn't have any place to get out. But that is what it is. It's curious is what is under all the blackberries. Because it's just a jungle there and the water pours into that thing. What is under all that besides then the water comes out down below? It's something like the Metolius River. You
Yeah.
wonder where it comes from. And it's,
Yeah, well, like I say, most of that water that's coming up there is from the stormwater collection systems, the city's stormwater collection systems uphill from that side, and that drains actually a lot of the area east of Dry Hollow Road going up there.
I don't have an answer personally, but I've poked around there. I can't reach no trespassing signs, I'm sorry, but I poked around there to see what else was there, and I had the feeling that there was puzzles underneath of those blackberries. Was there more outbuildings than
There's,
just the house and the garage?
I think there's at least one more small outbuilding there, because I believe there's one that's, well, I think it's the upper left one here. It's all, I believe it's all wood. And other than that, I haven't also done a lot of digging around in the blackberries. It's not our intention to go in there and do a lot of excavation. We're just talking about basically removing the above ground structures, getting rid of that hazard and that risk and cleaning the site up.
It'd be so interesting to have the history, wouldn't it, Eric? But I don't know that it's even available anywhere. The history of what that was there, part of the whatever. I don't know. But
I like that you're gonna, the stones will be repurposed in a historic way. I think that's a great idea. And it does look like a bit of a hazard. It's not a beautification
Yeah.
right now. It's
if you,
scary.
that's a lot of money just going in there and getting those stones.
Yeah, and we're not going to spend a lot of time, breaking them apart at this point. We're going to bring them out, with an excavator in 2 or 3 stone chunks or one stone chunk, just however they end up coming apart.
If they survive that, then you will save them for a few.
Yeah, yeah. And it's, the stone is in my experience is a pretty solid stone. These are, correct me if I'm using the wrong term, but I think it's black granite or something like that.
Yeah, it's probably the local basalt.
Or basalt, I mean,
Yeah,
not granite, I'm sorry, black basalt. Similar, like I say, to what we were looking for to make the repairs on 4th Street grade a number of years ago.
Well, I guess my concerns is that it's probably older than 75 years old and it's abandoned, so it's technically an archaeological site, so probably have to get a permit from the state as well. So maybe I'll try and do a little background research for you guys and talk to the SHPO about it and maybe try and do a little history too. It's one of those things that, it's probably not associated with a historical event or person of any significance, but who really knows at this point, since we don't really know any of that history. So maybe it'd behoove us to kind of try and at least find out when it was built and who built it and all of that stuff, which shouldn't be too impossible to do.
You
You know,
think
look at
about how close it was to there was a real hub there. There was a railroad unloading facility so they could water the sheep and so on and so forth, with all backed into that same group. And the flour mill was there, and the old hide part of the flour mill now bought animal hides, and they bought barbed wire, and then they turned around and sold it back. And so there was a lot of activity right in that area. It could have been some kind of a carpenter shop for the wagon.
Yeah, well, I mean, and that place is right where the 2 railroads come together.
Yeah,
right? The
yeah.
Great Southern and the Union Pacific, so.
You're not probably real familiar with the Southern Railroad, which was on the south side of Old Highway 30. If Old Highway 30 was still, had been built, they built the highway about on the old southern side. And the Cannon Building is that they moved it, but they didn't turn it around.
Right, yeah, I think so. I think they just shoved it across
Hmm.
the street there. It used to be on the other side of.
Where was the roundhouse?
Hmm.
I remember that from my childhood, but I can't remember exactly where it was. Close to that?
I think it's further out towards the old mill district.
Okay.
If I might ask a question, so, because everything that you just suggested, seems reasonable and appropriate and would certainly be nice things to do. Do you think that should all happen before any demolition occur? So that, okay,
At least they should be aware that we're gonna do something.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if it does turn out to be something that's got more significance than it has on the face of it, then it'd be kind of a shame to say, oops.
yeah. And with all due respect to that comment, our concern is having some kid in there and having to go, oops.
Yeah, I
The
understand.
brewery's down there too.
Is
I
there a-
forgot about that activity going on.
Yeah, is there a way to kind of board up the entrances enough to secure
There's
it?
not enough to really connect to anymore with the walls gone, like what we've done. Like I said, it's just posting signs. We've got some street barricades down there with no trespassing, danger, no trespassing signs on them. And we've got 3 of those staged across the frontage of the buildings. But, short of wrapping the site with a chain link fence or something like that, I don't think it's very feasible to try to physically secure the site to prevent access.
I see both sides of the coin here because it's like I've seen people go over there with their dogs, like walking onto the property despite the signs and everything. But at the same time, if it is an archaeological site that we don't know about the significance of it, I'd hate to have that just torn down. I mean, I understand the public safety aspect, but I see both sides of the coin here. So yeah, it's a very hard place to be.
There isn't actually an intact structure like with a roof and 4 walls left for someone to go in.
No, now there is, the roof is,
I was just saying that there's not 4 walls and a roof intact. There's just an odd wall that's still standing.
there may be a section that still has that type of configuration. I think the wooden roof over the top is gone, but there's one piece that's kind of a 2-story and it may have the intermediate level still intact that's accessible through an open, a window that's on the front side. If that wall's still remaining. But yeah, it's a challenge.
Bit of a hazard.
We believe it. Yeah. That's the whole reason I'm here. We're not eager to, deprive the community of a resource or compromise our history either. But we are concerned about public safety.
See, there's something there that could be dated somewhat, but it's not my ability to find. That's got a concrete floor in it, Eric.
Hmm.
And they didn't pour concrete floors at a whim until well into the 20s, maybe the 30s even.
You might find a knucklehead that, like with a Trevitt House, it was auctioned for $1. And you might find a couple of people that are just silly enough to do it and restore something, but it's a long shot.
Well, like ODOT says, there's no place to even open it up as a tourist attraction, even if you stabilize the building, because where you're gonna put their cars or gonna can't even run a shuttle bus.
Well, and as I mentioned before, we think it's partially located within the ODOT right of way, which is,
It
an
would be
encroachment that they're not eager to maintain either. I'm
So
sorry.
that if someone was going to restore it somehow for some historical reason, you're able to do it. It's not in a place where people could have a driveway and make a little cottage.
No.
Anyway, it's just right by the.
In fact, I think we had a request about a year and a half ago for somebody who was interested. This was before the wall fell down. To do exactly that same thing and
Utility below the house is a major concern with, I mean, there's a storm pipe just right going through that house. And so it was staff's opinion when somebody did call, because they were interested, access couldn't be maintained. And, just the utility line there also makes for the development unfeasible in staff's opinion.
and then ODOT wouldn't have supported an improvement of an encroachment within its right of way.
Mhm.
While we're, if we killed this subject, do we have to wait till the last minute before we can approach those buildings that are up behind the highway house or Evans and try to make an effort to restore those, or at least landmark them and clean up around them enough so people could at least walk up there? There is a place there. These are historic also. They've been there well over 75 years.
Yeah, so I think that Kayla may know a lot more about the property ownership there, but I think that's all
Well, as
private.
near as I can check out, it belongs to Meadows Signs.
That's what I was gonna say. I think it's Meadows Sign is the owner, and then that's ODOT right away for Second Street out there. So it's not anything that Public Works has looked at. Caitlin, anything?
Yeah, so part of that just isn't owned by the city,
No.
behind the highway house especially. And most of that's Meadow.
Would you want a consensus from the group, Dave, or have you made your consensus?
I was actually my perfect world would have been, I had consensus among the commission for us to go ahead with the plans that I laid out. I didn't hear that from the commission. I guess if I was to try to recite back what I think I heard, I think I heard some interest in allowing some time for Commissioner Gleason to try to do some research and see what might be available in terms of information. And then we come back and visit about it or work at the staff level after that? What would be your pleasure there?
Well, I think probably just work at the staff level unless, we find something significant and then bring it back. And I'd try and do this pretty quick since it's a hazard, right? So something that has to be abated in a timeline. And also you do mention that ODOT might be involved as well. And I know ODOT does have archaeologists and they have restrictions that they have to take care of archaeological things before they
Right.
impact them. So there might be, it might involve getting ODOT involved as well. I don't know.
Okay.
But I'll try and track some of that stuff down and keep in touch with you.
Well, thank you for the conversation and,
Thank you.
outlining a path forward.
It's historic. And so we have to make an effort as a commission to do something. Maybe it's very little, but something.
No, I appreciate that. And that's actually why we're here talking with you today instead of ignoring those elements of
We
the project.
appreciate you coming.
So,
We
thank
do.
you.
Thank you. I am overjoyed to see the agenda turned upside down again now, in the sense that we are going to have time now for ourselves and for the staff. And so I'm going to call upon you to tell us anything that might be coming up that we should be aware of, and anything that you want to ask the commission's feelings on off record. I know it's on tape, but nevertheless, it's off record. This is the ideal time to have it in our meetings at the end like it is now. And that gives the people that came to testify a right to go home and be jubilant or go home and be mad and kick the door on the way out. But nevertheless, it's our business at this point. So I turn it over to you.
Yeah, so I don't really have any specific comments. Next HLC meeting, we did not receive any applications, so that next meeting may be canceled. We do have some other discussion items coming up that will just be tabled for the next meeting regarding the Tony's building. So that's kind of fun, but yeah, I'm just moving forward. Nothing really new or exciting for HLC news yet. That's all.
Matthew.
Oh, I can't see him. He's right behind the chair. Oh, that's I know that man.
On up.
If I may
Yeah.
just briefly. I joined in, so I don't know if it was mentioned previously at the start of the meeting, but just an FYI that there's a KPFF report on the Getchell building going before the city council on October 10th. So that packet has gone out and that report is included in that packet. It is October 10th, right? Yep, I think it's okay, October 10th. Thank you. I had to double second guess myself for a second. But just so you have that on the radar, that was included in the city council packet. And if you haven't already seen it, you can feel free to go on the city's website and take a look.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks.
That concludes staff comments.
All right, I'll start down here with Scott. First of all, you made a wonderful presentation today, young man. And do you have any comments that you'd like to share with this commission?
Oh, well, I appreciate the compliment. No, I don't. Thank you for the opportunity, though.
Eric?
Just mostly the Waldron.
Yeah, well, I was gonna ask if you weren't still
Getchell-
affiliated.
Getchell building and still have concerns there, but it's looking like the KPFF report, if I read it correctly, kind of was mostly an update of their previous reports where they kind of updated the cost associated with 4 options that the city council had them investigate. Option 1 was just keep it the way it is and stabilize it and the cost associated with that. Option 2 was a complete restoration and reuse. Option 3 was move it and restore it. And option 4 was demolish it. So, and it looks like the staff recommendation is I think generally option 1. So kind of maintain it in its current state at its current location.
You might say kick the can.
Well, not necessarily kick the can, but at least maintain it as part of the community. I think the Friends of the Waldron are kind of looking for something a little more aggressive than that, where we actually start doing some repairs to the building. But we'll see what.
The
council
roof
has.
is intact.
The roof is pretty, well, 10 years old or something like
Okay.
that. It's in good shape. And when they came and did the inspection, they said it was actually that they hadn't noticed any additional deterioration, and they noticed that there was less water or maybe even no water in the basement, which there had been water in the basement, their previous inspection. And I think the city addressed that by lessening the landscaping water that was being sprayed next to it. So I
That
think
they had no claim to before.
that helped. And it might just be a seasonal thing too, who knows, but.
Anything you have observed on our recreation?
Ooh, they're going to town on it. They've done a lot of demolition work on the last part of the building. So that I think what was left of the facade there didn't look too original. There were some bits of original structure kind of buried back in there, but most of those, except in the basement, have been taken away. I think there were just little elements of that previous building that had kind of been built around. So I think that's mostly coming down, and now it's gonna go back up.
Okay. Bev,
Well,
you're out, you're walking around. How are we coming on our walking park? We don't have our walking tours.
That was, Dawn usually spoke to that.
Well, Don isn't here anymore.
I don't know that much. I know that the material that they sent to us, we looked at it for the Ben Snipes house and the Trevor house, and what showed up on the actual audio was not our house. It was a different, and so Mr. Eggy rang them and they're straightening it out. It was just a little hiccup. So I'm glad I'm married to a detail guy because it had nothing to do with our property. But I was going to mention that our commissioner, Doug Leash, had a beautiful ceremony of memorial. And it was lovely. It was at St. Peter's Landmark, and then there was like an after thing where people came, and yeah, I think well, there was quite a few. Eric was there was quite a few there. So he was such a big part of this commission in this town. So I thought I would just mention that. And then the wall dogs. On a lighter note, if you go by the Ben Snipes mural and you look to the foothills, you will see two wiener dogs who are immortalized from Cookie and Cinnamon are starting that stampede. You just look at it, looks like it might be coyotes, but no, they're two wiener dogs. And then if you look at the historic main street of the Dalles, there's a mercantile owned by some famous people, name of Eggy on that street. So anyway, I'd blow my horn. It was fun.
Now, the man on the wall, how have you doing there? Tell us what you're seeing. Oh,
So
I didn't get any audio.
Sorry, the dog was barking. So all I've heard was that there was a broken window at the stick because they put up a big like poster or flag sign to commemorate the wall dogs coming in. So they had to get that replaced. But other than that, I haven't heard too much around town. I think they're getting that fixed, but I'm not sure where they stand on that.
Thank you. You're growing a wonderful beard too, fella. It'll be nice when we have our cold winter.
Thank you, Bob.
Julie, how is the Fort Dalles
museum,
coming?
Fort Dalles. Well, we're getting towards the end of the season. The tour boats are going to be ending. I think one line ends at the end of the month, and the other goes into November a little bit. Crystal seems to be doing a really good job as our new head lead docent. We can always use more volunteers to be docents, of course. And this winter, we're going to be doing some looking at what's been accessioned and what needs to be de-accessioned, if there are things like that. The barn, the Anderson House barn, has many items in it that we're not real sure what their origin is or what we need to do with them. So that's going to be a discussion coming up. Our meeting is next week. So we'll be deciding on some things like that.
Big pieces of furniture and things like that aren't related to being in a barn, basically.
Yeah, pump
That
organs.
we don't have any place to put anywhere else either, so.
Yeah.
It's kind of scary you. Is there any kind of a plan that you're going to develop?
Well, I think we have to kind of look at the collection as a whole and what we have and what is kind of extraneous to our mission statement.
Yeah.
I think kind of during like the last 5 years, there was a lot of things that the previous director had trouble saying no to that happened to be big. Like, I think we have like 3 pump organs and stuff like that, which are kind of more than we need. We've
Yes.
already got 2, I think, so.
I
On
hauled
display, so-
one back to the Historical Society one time.
Yeah, the one back to the Oregon Historical Society. Well, we got a couple more after that, so we got to find new homes for some of that stuff.
Is the Historical Society interested in any of that stuff, or haven't you approached them?
Well, I think that's part of our thing is that we have to go through that whole de-accession process. Like, so I think part of that is to contact other historical societies to see if they'd be interested in the stuff as well.
We did at one point end up giving some things, passing some things on to museums that were in the locality of where the artifact had come from, a lumber museum down towards the coast. I think we were able to give them something that we had that fit with their collection much better. Also, we have Paulette Brook, who's newly on our board, has facility with Past Perfect, which is the museum software. So she will be helpful to us in helping us decide what has been accessioned and what has not been recorded, that kind of thing.
Well, I'm hearing rumors on the boating on the river, and it's gonna be kind of an extended season this year. Are you ready for it at the up at the museum? You're talking about running clear through to November sometime?
Right, yeah, one of them runs through. We've had them into December before, but this year, I can't remember which line it is. It's probably going to end at the end of October, and one of them is going to go into November a bit. But we're having a lot of walk-ins, and that's nice because we want local people as well to treasure what we have there in the history.
Good.
We had an inquiry, the Criterion Schoolhouse, which was from up above Wamick, is at the state fairgrounds, and it went into disrepair a little bit over the years, and so we get inquiries from people about what we know about things, or from families who want to know if we have any historical connections, and so that's a fun thing, trying to help people out that way. It's part of the work.
Thank you, Julie. We'll be waiting for your next edition, and we'll let it go on. I really have not whimpering, just telling the way it is, have been a little bit under the weather, and so I haven't got out and stirred up very much. I missed out on the wall dogs when they were here. I just couldn't get well enough to go down and see what they was agitating or doing.
You can make the tour now anytime you want.
Yeah. And now I can go by and look at what they've done. It all looked good, but it doesn't cover half of the permits that we issued. You know, we issued permits until, and
I think some of them are painted on boards that are going to be put up later. Is
that's
that
what I
correct?
heard. I don't know just how that's all gonna work out. So anyhow, there's already the comment, who's repairing the old ones? So
They had a gala that was very successful, and I think the funds from that are going to be part of the support of me painting the murals. Am I right? Yeah, I think it's well
Okay.
thought out.
All right. Any other comments by anyone here? You do have a meeting then tentatively scheduled for the month of October?
So we have not received any applications. So I tentatively canceled the meeting. I don't think we haven't sent out the notice yet or anything, but I'm just kind of letting you guys know where we're headed. No applications.
Well, I was gonna say, if all goes well the way I got it planned, poor old Forest up there might have to step up again. But I'm not saying that I'm going to be able to leave town either. So if we have nothing more to discuss, would someone like to make a motion that we adjourn?
I muddled that last one.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn, Commissioner.
We are adjourned. That's good enough. All you gotta do is make the motion.
I could have done that one.
I snuck in on you.